Welcome back to Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo. I don't know what day on the quarantine it is, but we have two guys here that are going to talk to us today about how they're training. Mr. Olympia, I like that title, Mr. Classic Physique Olympia, that is, Chris Bumstead and Iain Valliere. Welcome, guys, to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Dave.
What's going on? Still feels good to hear it being announced like that.
Yeah, Mr. Olympia. I think that's the first time I've announced it.
Feels good.
You could have done me the service, but Mr. Olympia winning coach Iain Valliere.
That's right. Okay, yeah. Well, I want to inspire you. See, your Olympia goals are a little more, I guess, to say grandiose than his are, because you got to beat, Brandon Curry and Phil Heath and all those guys. Chris basically defined the division. He's one of the first. All right, let me talk to you guys. You guys are in full beard mode, which means you're hunkered down and you're basically, I guess you could say, quarantined. And I think this is on a lot of people's minds. How are the IFBB pros of today getting by during this quarantine? What has changed in your life, if anything? Because I tell people nothing has really changed in my life, aside from the fact I got to wear a mask to the supermarket. But what's going on in your guys' life?
I mean, I can only speak for ourselves. I can't speak for every single pro bodybuilder out there, obviously. For me, like in my day-to-day life, not much has changed, really. I mean, I didn't really leave the house other than to train or to go to the grocery store here and there. Obviously cutting back on the grocery store shopping as much as possible and just, doing bigger loads, going every 2 weeks, that kind of stuff. And other than that, just the workouts have left, the typical corporate gym and stuff like that. And we're just doing the home gym kind of thing. So, we're very blessed to have a pretty good setup, so for us, it's been pretty good. But, I think most guys, and we were just talking about this, I think at this level, I think most guys do have people that are, really willing to reach out and help out when it comes to the top pros. And I think for the majority of the guys I've seen talk to, they at least have something at their disposal.
Right.
So I think that's definitely one of the perks of being a well-known bodybuilder, at least, right?
Yeah, I mean, have you guys had people reach out to you and say, "Hey guys, if you need a gym, I got a great gym you can train at anytime you want"? Have you had a lot of a lot of people reach out?
Yeah. Of us being in a smaller city without a huge bodybuilding community too, it's kind of like if someone has a home gym and they're gonna offer anyone to come, they're probably gonna be like, Iain is like by 100 pounds the biggest guy in the entire country pretty much, but definitely our city. And then I get to tag along too because I got some accolades too. But luckily we're the ones who have been invited. Iain's have some long-standing friends who have had it, but definitely like you were saying, if you're a pro bodybuilder, this is your career, this is what you do. You're going to find a way to make it work. If you happen to know someone, maybe you'll ask them, you'll pay them a membership to go to their house. Find some way to make it work. It's usually doable within your city.
But even before we had found or had people reach out to us for that, when this being your career, you got to do whatever it takes, to make it work. And, for me, I didn't think this was going to be a week-long thing or a 2-week-long thing. So we, right off the hop, we were looking at spending 10, 12, 50, whatever it would have cost to get the equipment we needed to have a sufficient setup. I mean, I have a pretty big sized bungalow house here, so I have a big finished basement. I mean, we could fit a shit ton of equipment down there. So, if it came to that, we would have been, more than ample to drop the money and make it happen. I mean, it's kind of is what it is. This is our career, and both of us have worked for, years or, over a decade in my case, to achieve the physiques we had. And, I know things obviously come back and you can hold a lot with your diet and stuff like that and doing minimal stuff with your body weights or just getting some dumbbells, bands, stuff like that. But I didn't want to settle for maintaining my physique or preventing loss. I want to continue to improve like I have the rest of my bodybuilding career.
Right. I mean, that's your livelihood. I mean, at this point, and that's your this is the thing that you do. This is your full-time job essentially. So it's important that you have what you need available. And it's funny. I think a lot of pro bodybuilders don't have gyms in their house only for the sheer fact that they take up space. It's not the money thing. It's they take up space. And who wants to have to deal with it? It's better to go to the gym. You have someone to spot you there. You have an environment with a little more energy, where you see other people training. I liked to leave the house to work out, but given a choice of not training or training, I have no problem training myself in my basement. That would have been my mentality if I was competing.
I would completely agree with you, and I'm definitely someone who's a big proponent on being in the gym for the energy of other human energy.
Right.
I hear a lot of people complain about gyms being busy, but for me, I kind of thrive off the energy of having other people there. So for me, that's never been something that I've really been too bothered by. But and so training alone would not be something that I usually enjoy. But I have Chris with me. Sure. I'm training with him for Olympia champion every day. Like I can't, you know what I mean? He's got a top level pro bodybuilder to train with. I have a top level. It's like, what could you ask for? You know,
sure.
I don't need their energy when I have someone like that to train with every day. So, you know, it's really more than you could ask for. I know we're both very lucky, obviously, in this situation to have what we have at our disposal. You know,
that's the question. Let me ask you this, Chris, because you're an Olympia champion. Obviously, you got to defend your title. Hopefully, assuming that there's an Olympia in September. And you know, here you're faced with the fact that you know you may not have a gym to work at it. The idea that you have access to what you need, I would think, at least, you know, in my case it would, that I would be so much more motivated to gym. It's like almost like to train. Excuse me. It's almost like you're privileged. You're like, holy shit, I'm so lucky. I got this gym. I got to really make it work. You know, it's like when you get injured and then you like come back from an injury and you're so glad to go back to the gym. It's like you have that enthusiasm like when you first started because you appreciate it so much more because now you actually can do something that you weren't able to do before. Do you feel that same type of feeling?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And it was an interesting like mental struggle when I was thinking, because I'm not so much like Ian where I have to improve. I need to kind of fine tune. I can't improve too much or I won't make my weight cap.
Right.
And when I'm like debating, is the Olympia even going to happen? Do I keep pushing it? Do I pull back? Do I whatever? And that was kind of in my head for a while. But then Ian literally in prep, and he kept pushing through and grinding. I was like, yeah, I can stay on his level and match his level. And that definitely helped me a lot to keep like hustling in the gym. Yeah. And absolutely, when we went from the idea of like, we were kind of holding on to one gym being open in the city for a while, and then one day it just shut down and it was gone. And that was when we were both kind of like, holy shit, we're scouring the internet, planning on moving everything out of the one room in his basement, setting it down there where we can do it. And that was like a bit of a panic mode, but like we knew it would be fine. Yeah. In my head, I was kind of like, if I can't get access to a gym like at all, then like there's no way the Mr. Olympia is happening.
Yeah.
Or if I have the means to do it, which I did and I do, then it might happen. But if I have no means to get a gym, then I didn't believe the show would even happen, which who knows if it will. But still, I was definitely, when we got down in the basement, we were pretty fired up, just lucky, blessed to have that. We're extremely grateful. And there's something that's a bit of a change of environment of having nobody around you. Just me and Ian, who have known each other for like 8 years now or whatever. No one else around, you know. We're fucking around. We're not wearing any shoes. We're walking around in socks. Got his own music playing in the boombox, you know, playing our own music. It's kind of a cool environment you can create down there.
Let me just give you guys, Chris, let me give you a little hint. Jailhouse rules. I know, I was in jail. Always wear shoes in the gym because you drop a plate on your foot, you don't want to have to go to the emergency room right now. Trust me, man. That's the rule of the gym. No bare feet.
No, you should drop shit on your feet. Yeah.
Matter of fact, when you're in prison, you have to wear work boots. You have to wear like the steel tip boots because, you know, if something falls on your foot, you're gonna break it. You know what I mean? And it makes sense. Believe me, it makes sense. The first time you drop something, we've all dropped something and come close to our foot, or maybe skimmed our foot or something like that. It hurts. You know, you don't need an injury.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Now, I know that when I was back in the day, and you guys can give me your own opinions on this, even if there wasn't a show, let's say they canceled the whole year, I don't think that I would have let up on my training one bit, even though I would have been kind of depressed a little that I couldn't compete. In my mind, the whole working out thing was just something that I did anyway, and the competing was kind of like validation for that. Do you feel the same way? I mean, do you feel less motivated if there's no show, or more motivated if there is a show?
I agree 100% with you in that mindset. I mean, for me, competing is like the reward, and it's something that it's like bringing it all kind of together. But the training and like the transformation, seeing what I can do to my body and push my body is really what is the real reward to me. Like I would do all this whether I was competing or not. I just like to be this way and look this way and train, I enjoy this lifestyle. So I think from that perspective, no, whether, this would not change anything, whether there's shows or not. I mean, in my mind right now, I'm hoping for the best, but planning for the worst. I'm not expecting there to be any shows, right, but it's not going to change anything with how I'm going about my prep. I mean, obviously I'm not going to push it down or start incorporating, the harsh prep drugs that you put in at the end or anything like that.
Right.
Just kind of keeping it like, in that 15 to 18 pounds over stage weight kind of range. So I'm lean, I'm ready in striking distance so that if the opportunity's there, I'm ready. But also for me, like, I can't be 300 pounds all year. Like, I can't do that. I can't go back into an off season and carry that weight all year. And either way, when I look at it, I would have been in prep for the majority of this year anyways.
Right.
You know, if I'm going to do shows, you know, I had planned to do Puerto Rico and to do Toronto. So either way, I was going to be doing this through June and then ideally till September through the Olympia. So, I mean, if anything, I'm being a little more conservative than I would be if I was doing a competition season.
Right. And you probably look just as good. That's the funny thing, right?
I mean, it's honestly, I think I look better because I've had a little more time, you know, to stay in these stages and kind of, you know, fill out and progress within those with not having to continually push down. So I think I've kind of held this, you know, 15-pound over stage weight kind of look, but I'm just like getting more muscular, more dense looking. It's just progressing within that same look. So
do you guys realize, I mean, do you guys, have you experienced this? I know I did. I think there was one point in my career I just was like, I don't know if I was injured a little bit or I wasn't sure. I don't think I was going to, I wasn't sure if I was going to compete that year. And I kind of just really coasted on low drugs, like usage way lower than I was using. And I looked maybe better than I did on the higher, what we thought was the right amount of drugs. And it changed my perspective on what I realized I needed and didn't need. And I realized that, you know, a lot of the stuff is overkill, that we just do it because we think we need to take 5 different drugs or take this much GH, and then when you realize, you know what, hey, you know what, I'm making just as good a progress and I actually look a little better because I'm not on an excessive amount, I'm not causing a lot of toxicity in my body. Maybe this is the way I should do it. And at some point in my career, I actually, the last 5 years, I changed how I was approaching it because I realized that I was maybe doing too much and I didn't need to, you know.
I mean, obviously, you know, speaking for Chris, obviously, as you know, with his autoimmune stuff like that, there's never any point where he's pushing anything ever, whether it's prep or off season or anything.
The average person would laugh.
They would laugh.
You wouldn't believe if
you know,
they knew what I was doing.
I mean,
well, what do you do? Like, what's a typical recycle for you now?
Chris in the off season, if he's doing more than 500 milligrams of test by itself, that's an aggressive off season.
Really? Wow.
And he's never done growth hormone in his life. I'll speak for that for him. Never touched it.
Wow.
Never used it. Doesn't use insulin. Never has used it. He's using no drugs other than, you know, a half cc a test twice a week. That's it. Like,
now,
my training wouldn't have changed at all, but like I didn't want to push anything without the prep coming because of my health stuff. Right. So like, of course, we keep training. That's what we love to do. But like, I didn't want anything else to have to change from my like kind of coasting, being healthy throughout the year.
Right. And did you start doing lower amounts, like when you found out you had this, you know, that IgA issue?
Probably just before we knew we had a name for it, but we knew something was going on.
Sure.
I mean, I've never. It's always been crazy.
And you look you look just as good, if not better.
Yeah, Chris has always been. I mean, I can speak because I'm obviously doing his protocols. I mean, he's never needed much. Like, you know, it's always been very conservative, and we've just kind of kept it there because he's continually succeeded with what we've been using. So there's no reason to push it. And then obviously when the autoimmune kind of came more into play, then that was even more of like take a step back and just be like, okay, you know, we don't need much. Let's just keep that in our mind. Because like you said, it's so easy to get into that routine of like, especially when you get into prep and your mind starts to play with you and you're like, I need more. Right. I'm starting to lose muscle. I need to add a drug. I need to up the dose, up the trend, up the Winstrol. Like, it's so easy to get into that, like, push more. And like you said, it's all bullshit for the most part. I mean, you know, taking 300 milligrams of something versus taking 500, it's, you know what I mean? Most times you look a little better with the less because, like you said, the toxicity is lower. You feel better. You know, your appetite's better. Everything's just working a little more effectively and more efficiently. So, you know, we've always been, you know, big believers in that. But, you know, times like this, especially with Chris and then, you know, with the no-shows, it's just even reinforced that right now, you know.
I stopped taking orals halfway through my career, and I realized that, you know what, I didn't look any different. And I felt better. All my blood work was way better. I didn't lose my appetite, you know, as much because the orals used to kill my appetite. And I said, why am I taking orals? I don't need to. There's so many other things that do the same thing, and there's so much redundancy in what we do. I mean, do you really need 5 drugs? Probably 2 will do the same thing. And that's what I did. I would off-season, I would do testosterone and equipoise, and, you know, pre-contest, I would do testosterone and trenbolone, and that was the last 5 years of my career. That was it with a little GH, and really, I mean, I looked, like I said, I think I looked just as good, if not better. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, I might have been able to add, maybe I would have needed more stuff to add the muscle, but at that point, I kind of had the muscle, so I didn't need to keep pushing the envelope in that sense. At least that's what I experienced. Now, when you look at yourself, Chris, in the mirror and you say, well, you know what, I'm the Olympia champ. I mean, people should be trying to emulate what I'm doing. There's really no reason for you to push the envelope at this point. I mean, right?
Like for me to push any more, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, you're the Olympia ideal at this point. I think the reason why you look as good as you do and you're doing as well is because you're not pushing the GH and insulin. You got the small waistline. You're not screwing it up. You know,
for sure. A big part of it when I started too was Ian kind of came in as like family, and it was like most of it was kind of like keep my brother safe, you know, and it was like minimal, and I kept seeing improvements. I'm still 25 years old. If I can't be making
right.
I'm in this age, and like there's no way I'm tapped out at my genetic potential.
Right.
But you got like 35. I'm 10 years below that, so I can still make changes. I've adapted my training. I'm not as strong probably as I used to be. I don't deadlift, squat 600, 700 pounds every week, but I'm trying a lot different, smarter. I feel good. I feel healthy, and my body's still improving. So I wouldn't change anything.
Well, since we're on the topic, would you ever, let's say you didn't have the IgA nephropathy and you had perfect health. Would you ever say to yourself, you know what, I am Olympia champion Classic, but I would like to see how I can do in the Open. I'm only 25 years old. Would you ever say maybe jump up to that Open class? Or do you think that this is your home, basically?
This is definitely my home. I've never, even before Classic came out, I never wanted to like succeed in pro bodybuilding and be at that level. This was never like a long-term career for me where I thought I'd be someone competing till I was like late 30s or something. It was more of like I love this look, I want to attain it, I want to achieve that goal, and then move on with my life.
And Classic literally just came in right when you were getting to that, so it was just kind of like, hey, this is a look that I think I fit into, let's give this a shot, and then, you know, obviously excelled quickly, and then it's a lot easier to make it a cair when you're coming second in Olympia your first year there, right?
Which is weird. I've always loved bodybuilding more, like as most people do. I like watching it more, I admire and respect the physiques more, but I've just never even had an ounce of interest to be there myself.
Let me ask you a question, Ian. What do you think it's going to take for you to make that jump, where you're starting to win shows and you know, challenge to win shows like the Arnold Classic, say? I mean, are you at that? Do you think you're at that point yet? And what changes have you made to the way you're preparing for the upcoming, assuming we have a season this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was just filling in. I had very strong strengths, but I also had very glaring weak points that kind of took away from, you know, my well-roundedness as a bodybuilder. Like certain shots, like my side chest or my most muscular would be overwhelming, and then, you know, I'd lose big ground on my front double or my back double and stuff like that. So the biggest thing for me is just I am still making consistent progress. Every year I'm a little better, I'm a little bigger, my conditioning is still being consistent. So for me, it's just trying to stay in that mindset of, okay, we're still moving forward. I don't need to do anything drastic and just be patient. You know, I'm not even 30 years old yet. Yeah. I'm still improving every year. I haven't placed out of the top 4 in a pro bodybuilding show since 2016.
Right.
You know, all 2018, 2019 seasons, other than the Olympia, I've been in the top 4 in every show I've done. You know, so it's just, for me, it's just staying the course. You know, I think I am going in the right direction. You know, and I feel very confident that going into the season, you know, I'm more than capable of winning any of the, you know, tier 2, tier 3 shows. I think going into a Toronto or Puerto Rico, I was more than confident that I was absolutely capable of winning one of those, despite who shows up. So for me, it's just staying the course. You know, I think that's really the biggest thing, not pushing anything. And, you know, for me, I still do have, you know, good waistline. I still have decent shape for a guy that's competing in the 250 range. You know, the biggest thing for me is also just, you know, managing my conditioning versus my fullness, because I'm very good at getting very lean, but when I get very lean, I have a tendency to get very flat, and my physique just does not look the same at all when I'm flat. You know, when I'm full, I can stand next to Rolly and look like I'm, don't look small, but then when I'm flat, I would stand next to Chris and look small, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's a huge variance in what my physique looks like when I'm full versus flat. So, you know, that's the biggest thing for me. And, you know, I think I am starting to understand my body better as the time goes on, but it's still just a work in progress, you know. And I'm working with a new coach now with Patrick Tour, who I've been working with since August. So, you know, we did Tampa Pro together. I came 3rd place behind Luke and Dexter there, so it was a good showing where I was conditioned out of my mind, but still on the flat side.
Yeah, but you know what though, Ian, you prep people yourself. Obviously, you prep Chris. I mean, you kind of know what you're doing at this point. Do you? I mean, certain people do need a coach. You're very smart. You're very intuitive. You know what? You understand what's going on. You've been doing this a long time. Do you really need a coach? Do you think that sometimes guys like you having a? Because when I was competing, I couldn't have a coach. I had people that were helping me and just would look over and say, look, you're out of your mind, you're too flat, or you're out of your mind, you're eating too much food. But I never had anyone per se telling me what to do because I kind of knew what to do, you know. No, don't you think you're at that stage now where you I think you would almost do better on your own?
See, I understand what you're saying, and in a lot of cases, for a lot of people, I do agree 100%. Anyone that's in my close circle knows that that would be a horrible idea. You know, especially Melissa, if she was to come up here, she would be like, you're out of your mind if you think this guy can coach himself. I just am.
Are you like a mental case, you know?
There's no one who second guesses how they look more than me.
Oh, okay.
Like all these pictures, if I was to post them on Instagram, the world would freak out, and I look at these photos and I cry, you know? I'm pulling up the pictures from last week, and I'm like, I have 1 centimeter less cut in my left quad and my right calf. Like I'll overanalyze things to the point like where Melissa wants to kill herself. That she's so annoyed hearing me talk. You know.
Right.
You know. So I think, do I know? And when I'm working with a coach, like when I worked with Matt or when I'm working with Patrick, do I understand and know why they make all the decisions they're making? And would I, in most cases, probably make the same coaching decisions myself? Yeah, in a lot of cases, yes. So, from a coaching standpoint, I think the knowledge base is there to make the right decisions, but I don't think I'm mentally, mentally there enough to coach myself and keep it together without either doing too drastic of measures.
Yeah,
I think
if I was coaching you, you know what would change the last 2 weeks? Nothing. Every time you'd say, should I do this? I'd say no. Should I deplete this? No. Should I add this? No. Should I take away this food? No. Should I carb up? No. I would just say no to everything, and you would look amazing because I see pictures of you on Instagram 2 weeks out, and I'm like, this guy's gonna win. There's no way this guy's not gonna win the show. And then I see a different physique show up on stage from what I saw, 2 or 3 weeks out. So I think the devil is in the fact that you think you need to change too much the last 2 weeks.
If I was coaching myself, I would be doing even more than that.
Yeah.
I'd be a guy that the last 2 weeks I'm eating fish and broccoli and doing 4 hours of cardio a day because I think I need to be 1% leaner. Yeah. And then I would be too scared to carb up, or it would be I would be too conservative or too aggressive, and it's very different. I have a very good eye, and I can look at people, and I think I can kind of decipher what, to my best knowledge, needs to be done.
Well, look how good Chris looks. That's how I'm saying you got a good eye. We know that,
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing that. I just think with myself, I have a lot harder time making those.
He has a horrible self-bias.
Yeah.
Exactly. Albums on my phone and pictures of them where I take them, and I'm like, holy fuck, you look crazy. Or I'm like, let me take a video of you doing this. Like, this looks insane. He's like, no, don't post that. Don't put that up. I'm like, fucking insane. Like, people literally would murder to look 10% like you.
Because you got the Dorian off season, that pre-cut 6 weeks out look. You get that crazy grainy looking, freaky look, So that's what everyone wants to see you bring on stage, I think.
Which I think I'm getting there, and I think Patrick is, in the short time I've worked with him, has definitely made leaps and bounds. Figuring stuff out that took me, without me telling him, figured out stuff that I took 10 years to figure out. With physique, be like, hey, this is what is doing this, and you're going flat here, so we need to make sure we're doing this, and let's not change this, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of thing, which I think is really what I need.
Yeah, you're an easy guy to help. Just don't change anything.
Don't overdo it. That's all it is. It's just stay the course.
The people you have to change the most for the last 2 weeks are the guys that are behind schedule. Those are the guys that you have to make a million changes to.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Chris. I saw you put up a video a couple weeks ago about how to, I know it was kind of like a fun video, but how to train at home. There's a lot of people out there that I know that contact me on a regular basis that just don't have access to a gym. They don't have a friend with a gym. They don't have any access to weight. I told everyone go online, and there's people selling dumbbells, but I think what's happening now is everyone's realizing that people are freaking out and they want to make their own home gyms, and they're gouging in prices. What can people do at home? I posted a video on Heavy Muscle Radio. I don't know if you guys saw it. A friend of mine from back in Long Island bought cinder blocks with a big long metal rod, and he basically he did everything you can possibly do on that. What would you recommend for people to do during this time? Bodybuilders that just have given up, so to speak, and they're just sitting home on the couch at this point.
I mean, it depends on a lot of things, like how much money they have to spend, how driven they are, what they want to do, how advanced they are in bodybuilding. Like if it's beginner guys, like I deal with a lot of younger guys because I'm a young guy,
Yeah.
and they're kind of been training for 1 or 2 years and they're into it. You can easily get away with band workout, body weight, pull-ups, push-ups, and those kind of things. You can definitely get away with those. There's plenty of good information for those online. And then there's like the really creative people where, like you said, you can Google. A few of my friends are actually trying to do it now, where you create plates and shit out of cement.
Right.
You pour it in a frame and you create it, and they're making those. You can YouTube that as well.
Yeah, DIY videos are huge on YouTube, right?
Yeah. I think an important thing now for people to understand is like gyms are very likely not going to be open till like October, end of the year potentially, like very likely. And if you're going to buy something, you might as well buy it now to get the most use out of it, and just kind of spend the money on it. Don't worry about buying a set of dumbbells that are from 30 to 80. Just buy like 30 and 80, and like warm up with some push-ups.
That's a good idea, right? You know your workout dumbbells, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we were buying dumbbells, because we had up to 40 or something available, and we were looking, and then I'm getting like, I want to get 50, 60, 70, and Chris is like, what the fuck are you ever going to use a pair of 60-pound dumbbells?
Yeah, you don't even use them, right?
You're either be doing curls and stuff like that with 50s, or you're going to be pressing 150s. He's like, you don't need anything in that 60s, 70s. Like,
Very
you
true.
never touch that at the gym. So, we got 40, then we have 50, 90, 125,
Right.
And when we've been training, we haven't missed a beat just with that. I mean, there's never been a time like, hey, I wish I had that 65s,
Yeah.
Whatever we have is just exactly what we need.
It's really all about getting creative at this point.
Yeah.
And if you can get like a few pairs of dumbbells and a few sets of bands and use them together, like it's very easy to make things feel a lot heavier with bands. Like those loop bands, put them around your back and hold it with the dumbbells to press. Now all of a sudden you've added like 50 pounds of tension onto that, and there's so much information all over the internet. It's about how much money you're willing to spend and how creative you're really willing to get.
I also think I would just add here, and I made an Instagram post about this the other day too. I think for me especially, and a lot of guys, I think not having so many fancy machines at their disposal will do a lot for them, in terms of getting back to the basics and not relying on your fancy, reverse grip, high pull, isolateral, fucking, like silly shit like that. That when you're, an intermediate bodybuilder, you don't need that. Like for me, I know it's brought me back to my grassroots of deadlifting, bent over rows, T-bar rows, heavy one-arm dumbbell rows, squatting, like, you can do all that with a barbell. That's it. You get a barbell, a couple plates, you're doing the essentials.
How do you squat? That's what I was going to ask you, legs. Legs seems to be a very difficult one for a lot of people to do at home. How do you recommend people set up something to do legs? I'm a big believer in you can squat and that would cover everything. But, I mean, how would you even set up a squat bar in a situation like that?
So, I mean, I have a few friends that went out and spent $50 on wood and were very capable of just using a wood to make a platform to rack the weight on, just a base wood thing, and they were just making like a slot and sit the bar on it, just use that as kind of like your power rack to just rack the bar. That's very simple. You want to go DIY it, find on YouTube, that'll take 20 minutes to put that together. A couple hammer nails, very simple. But even without that, I mean, if you just have the barbell, I mean, you can do walking lunges, you can do split lunges, putting your feet up on something. I mean, there's so many variances of movements like that you can do, right? I mean, straight deadlifts, I mean, everything you can do like this. Good mornings, I mean, there's 2 hamstring exercises and 2 compound quad exercises as well there that you can do right there. I mean, you get a bench, you can do hip thrusts with it. I mean, there's so many exercises you can do just with a barbell and not even with the rack, right? So,
yeah, I think that with, like you said, with like a bar, some plates, and some dumbbells, and you don't, like you said, you don't need all the dumbbells. I use 2 dumbbells. That's it. Two, like you said, 2 different dumbbells. And I'm not lifting the weight I lifted years ago, so I only need, like a 50-pound dumbbell is the heaviest I need, and I need like a 28-pound dumbbell to do some side laterals with, because I'm just trying to do maintenance type stuff, and I'm getting a good workout in, for me. Now you guys, obviously, you're lifting at a different level than I am, but same thing for legs. I mean, if you have a barbell with a little bit of weight and you could squat, I mean, and you can deadlift with that barbell and do some bent rows, I mean, what are you really missing? I mean, you should be able to do everything with a barbell and dumbbells. That's exactly what Arnold and those guys did back in the day. I mean,
something that will teach people to, like, I've talked to a lot of younger kids, like I was saying, and I can't tell you how few of them deadlift and squat. And are terrified to do it. Like, everyone's always like, oh, like, what machine can I do for this or that? I'm like, I don't want to deadlift. I don't want my waist to be bigger. I'm like, you're 140 pounds. Your weight.
I tell people this. I say, look, if you add a ½ inch of girth to your waist from squatting and deadlifting, but you add 2 inches to each quad. I said, and 4 inches to your shoulder width and back. I said, do you think you're going to notice that half an inch on your waist? I said, Flex Wheeler squatted. His waist didn't look that big. I'm sure it was bigger than when he was 140 pounds, but it certainly didn't look bigger because it's an illusion.
My squatting and deadlifting, mine never came up. I just had a few injuries that kind of stopped me from doing it. Right. And on top of that, too, if these kids aren't doing it, their form probably sucks, so they don't need a lot of heavy weight right now. Right. Get into the basics, go into some old school things like time under tension, super tempo squats. If you're squatting 2 plates, I can make 2 plate squat. Normally I squat 500, I can go down to 200 and make that feel hard as hell. Right. Just doing slow negative pauses and just like,
or do 100 fucking reps. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I love when I see these guys that like think that they're big, you know, trainers, and they have Instagrams and they have selfies and stuff like that, and then you put them under a pair of dumbbells and their arms are doing this stuff because they've never actually used like a free weight movement where they actually had to stabilize the weights themselves. They're so used to the machine doing it, and you lose another dimension of muscular growth, I think, when you're not using free weight movements.
I agree.
All right, well, it seems like you guys are very well equipped over there, hunkered down, and you know what? Have you talked to anyone, Chris, in terms of the Olympia and what the powers that be that run it seem to think is going to be taking place? You think it's going to be delayed later in the year?
I haven't heard anything myself. No, I don't have any insider secrets or anything.
So you've just been kind of just laying low?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, and even though there's nothing else really to do, but I appreciate you coming on anyway and giving us your insights into training and all that stuff. Good luck with the rest of the season. Hopefully, come June, we'll be pumping it up again.
Yeah.
All right, guys, and that's going to take us to the end of another episode of Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time.